wake up in the morning, you've got a job, you're a professional, you've got a family to run, you've got lots of things, you've got lots of balls in the air, and lots of plates that you're spinning in the air. Like most people, apart from each morning, you wake up fatigued. It's like you haven't had a night's sleep. It's exhausting. And not only that, within moments, your mind's kicked in and it's already starting to analyse and assess the day ahead. So it's either going straight into a future moment and going, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to do this meeting, I can't cope, or it's going back and it's basically going over things that have already happened, looking at what you think you've done wrong, and now you're starting to experience anxiety and you haven't even left your bedroom. It's like already the day started off on the wrong foot. And you're not daft. You're intelligent. You've tried lots of things to try and curb this because it doesn't feel good. It's even starting to have impact on your family life. You've noticed that you've withdrawn from things. Perhaps people invite you to do things and you just say no. And I know that when I was going through this 15, 16, 17 years ago now, that it gets into like every aspect of your life. And for me, it started with me and then it went outwards into all areas. So I would start saying no to social events because I was already fearing the worst case outcome of like being judged, or what will I say to people, and people will think I'm stupid and blah, blah, blah. And then it would stop me taking advantage of opportunities that were being presented to me. In fact, half the time I wouldn't even see the opportunities. It starts to get into everything. So you try different things and still you recognise that you're not getting anywhere fast. Maybe you get a moment of like, oh, I've had a deep tissue massage and I just feel slightly better, but bang, the next day it's back again. And it becomes more increasingly frustrating. And if this is you, then this training tonight is 100% for you, because what I want to do for you tonight is show you that you're not going mad, number one, and number two, what is actually happening and what you actually need to focus on in order to heal. So as you slowly start joining this, do the usual. Give me a hello, a high five, a emoji in the comments. Just let me know that you're here, and I'm going to dive straight into this training because I really want to bring to you some great value tonight in a short amount of time. So grab paper and pen. You're probably going to have to watch this back because I'm going to move quite fast. Don't panic. You can ask questions in the comments. I will come to them, even if it's not here and right now. I'll come back to them and answer them at a later date. If you watch this on replay, just hashtag replay. Okay, so you have tried everything and yet your anxiety levels are still there. You're still starting to, it's affecting your confidence, it's affecting your self-worth. It is starting to impact your relationship with your family. It's starting to get into your work. You're feeling fatigued, you're feeling shattered, all those common symptoms, okay? So you try different things. Now, I work with people obviously all day long in this arena, and one of the first questions that I ask people when they come to me is, all right, we know where you're at, we know that you're struggling, we know that this cannot continue because it's really starting to impact your world, but tell me, where do you want to get to? What do you think the most common answer is? What do you think most people say that they want out of this journey? Yes, you're right. They say they just want to be happy. And I always say to people, okay, yes, I hear you. You want to be happy, you want to feel like you once did, but tell me, what will that happiness bring you? And when I get people to draw down on that, what actually usually comes out of it is that it's not happiness, it's that there's certain things in their life that are really quite simple and very enjoyable that they've just lost touch with. Most commonly is things like being able to, good evening Roxanne, being able to connect and communicate better in their loving partnership and relationships. To be able to get that zest back in the morning where you spring out of bed and you actually feel like excited about life, like you've got your mojo back again. To be able to be with your children and actually consciously be present with them rather than always being somewhere else. that was definitely my experience when I was in the height of my anxieties. I was there doing, I was like existing with them. I was getting them through the day and getting them to places. But, you know, I look back and I think, God, there was like literally like weeks, months, almost years that went by where I was so unpresent in their lives because I was so in my head that I missed the magic. Now, you can't turn the clock back, and I'm not going to like do that, but you can learn to be able to override that. So you try all these different things, nothing works, you become more and more and more frustrated with it all. What the heck is going on? Right, I want to play a game tonight with you. If you're up for this, give me a high five or an emoji in the comments. If you are up for approaching tonight's training in a slightly different way, I promise you, you will get a different outcome. So we're going to play a game. Let me know if you're up for that. And this is how the game's going to go. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you've just arrived on planet Earth, okay? You've arrived here on planet Earth and you've been given a vehicle. And the vehicle you've been given, your basic vehicle to maneuver around this planet is this body, is this mind. You have been gifted this mind and body to be able to maneuver around this planet while you are here. Brilliant. Also, you're going to be given two extra things. You're going to be given some thoughts and you're going to be given some emotions that are going to come along with the mind and the body. So the thoughts will be the language of the mind and the emotions will be the language of the body. Now, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. It's a little bit like a game, a video game. So, you know, when you put these headsets on now and you have these like alternative universes that kids can get into, it's a little bit like that, apart from your character is your mind and body, right? So you've been given this to maneuver around this particular game and it's called your body. And what drives this body is your consciousness. So your conscious awareness is what's going to make this body come alive, right? So you've landed on planet Earth, you've got a mind and a body, and your consciousness is what's going to make it alive. Brilliant. Now, like when you're playing a video game, you get like a control set, don't you? Or whatever. My kids are probably going, oh my God, Mum, it's not called that. Anyway, you get one of those control things. Your control for this game that we're in, called the game of planet Earth, is your thoughts. So your thoughts are what are going to maneuver you around this planet. So whatever you think about, you start to create. So I know if you were playing like a video game, you would use your console to create that world. Instead, your console is your thoughts, right? So this is how you're going to maneuver around the world. So this is part of the rules of the game. You're not your mind, you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, and you're not your emotions. You are purely conscious awareness that is experiencing these things. That's it. You experience them through your avatar, and your avatar is whoever you may be. Brilliant. Okay. So that's number one of the game. So you get going into your game, you're born brand new, but the only thing is when you're born into this game, you forget everything. So you don't know what it's like to be a human, you've never been given a rule book, you don't know that the thoughts are your console, and you don't know anything about what emotions are. In fact, you don't know that your mind and body, your thoughts and emotions are not you. You don't know that, you've forgotten. So you've been born this baby and you start to grow up. As you grow up, you are given a blank canvas, literally like this. And your blank canvas is called your life. And in this life, you now get to draw and create and paint, if you like, your universe. You get to create your life. And you can create in whichever way you so desire. You just have to use your thoughts and start creating. But as you start growing up, you start to experience different things. And a lot of it is lovely and really great, but some of it is questionable. Some of it is what we call traumatic. So what happens is let's say, for example, you are 5 years old and your pet hamster dies. You've never experienced loss at that point. You don't know what it feels like to experience grief, but you love this pet hamster. And even though you're only 5 years old, it is a very sad experience. And so your mum or your caregivers, they take you to bury Hammy the hamster and you do a little prayer. And it feels very sad, but then very quickly you move on because, you know, mum says, come on, let's go and get you an ice cream. She wants to try and cheer you up. She's doing the best she can to be able to make you feel happy. All really good. However, in that experience of a level of trauma, because trust me, trauma comes in all types of levels. And most people, when we say the word trauma, we always go to the worst case scenario, thinking things like, I don't know, rape or a house fire or a loss of job or a massive divorce that's really not amicable, and we always tend to go to real extremities. But actually trauma is a daily experience that humans, whilst in this game, get to experience more often than you can probably imagine. It could be the most simplest thing, like you're in a traffic jam and you've got a really important meeting. You can't be late, but there's nothing you can do about this traffic. It creates an intense amount of stress that causes a level of trauma. So what happens? Well, this avatar in this game experiences two different types of feelings and emotions. Now, you've heard of feelings and emotions. You probably even use those words often in your life, in this game of life, talking about where you're at. But let's really dive deep into what they really are. Right. So let's talk about feelings first. What is actually a feeling? Okay. So I come into my office, I open the door, and I'm really busy and I'm not being very aware and I'm not being very conscious, and I go to shut the door and ow, I trap my finger in the door. Yikes, that hurt. Instantly, I get a feeling. Now, the feeling might be a tingle, or in that case, an instant shock of pain. And the feeling I get basically is a communication from my body to me to get my conscious awareness attention to say, oi, get your finger out of that door. It is painful and it could cause a lot of damage. So the shock of pain is by design to get my conscious awareness for me to stop doing the very thing that could damage and potentially lead to death. Okay. So what happens in that moment is it gets my attention and I go, ow, God, this is so painful. And I stop. Now, depending on the severity of the pain, so sometimes it might just be, I don't know, you just slightly touch something hot and you go, oh, ow. And yes, you stop doing it, but it's not that severe. But then there can be other levels of severity which are so severe and the pain will be really intense, and that gets your attention even more because potentially it's saying to you, get yourself to A&E, this is a problem. So the level of the feeling depends on the level of attention that our conscious awareness needs. Now, we've all experienced this, and the great news is that we've got this incredible body that, unless it is totally an unfixable situation, generally our body just unconsciously then goes into automatic mode to heal us. And what it'll do is, while we're asleep, we might have a cut on our finger and miraculously within 2 to 3 days it's vanished. I mean, that is incredible, right? And that is a feeling, okay? But then we also have these things called emotions. And emotions work in a completely different way. And if you have been struggling with mental health, if you have been struggling with an over-intrusive thinking mind, you haven't been able to sleep very well, you overthink things, perhaps you get a real low mood often, maybe even you suffer with chronic pain that's just not, there's no answer to it. You get these weird aches and pains in your neck and your shoulder, and then it moves to your back, and then it comes back to your shoulders. I can guarantee that the reason why you have been experiencing those things is because of what I'm about to tell you next. Right, let's talk about emotions. Right, we're going back to our vehicle, our avatar, which is this brilliant piece of kit that we're manoeuvring around in. Hi Jade, hi Dan. And we are slowly manoeuvring around the planet. We're growing up, as I said before, from the age of 0, and we're starting to have experiences. Now, suddenly we have a traumatic experience. Our parents split up. We have to move schools a number of times as a small child. Maybe there's a death in the family unexpected. Perhaps it's suddenly that someone gets poorly around you and you have to become the caregiver at the age of 8 years old. An array of things can happen to humans that are not necessarily ideal and can cause trauma. So an example might be, you get in from school one night, you ask for your tea's made, it's put on the table, and you decide halfway through your tea you don't like the taste of it, and so you leave it. Your caregiver, your parent, has worked really hard to make that tea. They're already stressed. They've already got stuff going on for them, so they lose it. They start shouting aloud, and it's really intense, and it scares you. And you're only a small child, so the severity of the shouting really disturbs your nervous system. Instantly, you start to feel scared, fearful, nervous, and unsafe. You're not consciously thinking this, but this is what you're starting to experience. Now, everybody on the whole planet has gone through some sort of trauma where this happens. I'm just using the food as an example. It could be an array of different things, from bullying at school, to being left out of the netball team, to fallouts, to being ill. I mean, the list is endless, honestly, but every single human being has experienced trauma at some point in their life, and every day we experience traumas, but maybe not severe ones. When something severe happens, this is what we do. Our natural innate being is to survive life. Our DNA has been programmed that way. We will, if we need to, if something happened right now and I needed to get out of this building, I wouldn't be going and Facebooking everybody and saying, I know I'm in the middle of a live, but it looks like maybe about the house about to fall in. Are you all right if I leave? No, I would get out of here and it would cut off, because that is in our DNA to survive, right? So this is what's happened. We experiencing something traumatic. So our caregiver screams and shouts, how dare you not finish your dinner? Do you know how much money this costs and how hard we work? And And instantly, as a little child, you're scared and you look at the person and you don't want to upset your caregiver. You want to be accepted in your tribe. You don't want to be sent out of the room and never spoken to again. You want to be loved and adored, because that is what humans crave. So this is what happens in the moment. In that moment, you experience two things. The first thing is you experience an emotion, right? And for the sake of this, I'm going to write the emotion fear, and that's now come up backwards, but it says fear. Because of the intensity of that emotion in that moment is so severe and so intense, we feel that we cannot experience it, and we cannot let the caregivers see that we're experiencing it, because we're already in trouble and we do not want to not survive this. So what we do in that moment is we take that emotion, this is done unconsciously, and it gets pressed and pushed right down into a part of our awareness that we are unaware of. And the only place as a human that we have that we are not aware of 24/7 is our unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind, that makes up 95% of our mind, is consistently operating and running and is turned on 24 hours a day. In fact, it's listening to everything. It's constantly ensuring that you're kept alive. It does things like pumps the blood around your body, it oxygenates you. It is amazing, but it's run unconsciously. So we're not we haven't got any conscious awareness. We're not aware that when we go to sleep that our digestion system's working. We're not aware that we continue to breathe throughout our sleep. But we know we do, because we wake up the next day and we are zinging for life and we're all good, right? So what happens when we experience something really stressful, to survive that, is we take that intense emotion, we don't process it, we shove it straight down to the part of us that is not aware, so we don't have to A, deal with it, and B, even remember it. So we push it down to our unconscious mind, where it goes into a nice tidy box, we put the lid on and wham bam, Abraham, that's good, that's dealt with. And what we do then is we then create, and this is part 2, a behaviour, which you can't read because it's upside down, to compensate how we experience that moment of unsafety so that we can feel safe again. And so some very common behaviours that we create are things like, so we've been scolded by our caregiver, we didn't like it, we never want our caregiver to ever get that angry and mad with us again. Oh, just a minute, I remember now, they said I mustn't leave food in my plate, so I must make sure I always eat my plate of food, no matter what. And so from that point onwards, we become a people pleaser around our food, and we eat whatever's on our plate because we dare not, because we don't ever, ever, ever want to disturb that feeling and allow it to come back up again. So what happens is we start to grow up and we become people pleasers. We please everybody before ourselves, which means our own needs are not met, which then causes a huge cascade of other issues, which leads to things like feeling completely burnt out, washed out, riddled with guilt, and ultimately anxious. So this all began as one small aspect at one small time in one small occasion. But we're not one aspect. We are multi-aspects. We're not even one individual, to be honest. I know it seems like that because we've got a name, and so we identify under that name, so it seems like we're just that one thing. But no. We are a collection of events, experiences, good, bad, and indifferent, that we've gone through in our whole entire life that make the character and person that we are today, that make us either aligned with our health or not, that make us confident or not confident. And I'll tell you this, the natural state of a human being is to be in total alignment of your health. The natural state of every single human being on this planet is to be vibing high in alignment with your health. But let's have a look around the planet. Like, what percentage of people live like that? Very few. Why? Because of this exact experience. They may not have been scolded for not eating the food, but they may have experienced a whole array of other things. And we call this fragmentation. So what happens is, if this is you in the middle, you experience something that's not great and you create a split in your consciousness. You split off the emotion and hide it, and you then become or adopt or create or take on a behaviour to keep you in supposable safety for your survival. That then continues throughout your life until you meet someone like me. And then I bring it to the forefront of your awareness and go, by the way, you don't have to live like that anymore. I promise you, we can drop all this crap. You don't have to be exhausted every single morning of your life because you are literally sieving your life through things that are not in alignment with who you are today. You don't have to do this anymore. So as we start to then go through life, we collect more and more and more of these fragmentations and it builds, but it all lives in this part of the mind, the part that we're not aware of, the unconscious mind. And so then, through time, what starts to happen is we as adults we start to then create things in our objective world. So maybe we're at work, we're at the office, we're sat at our desk and somebody says something and we then filter it through our unconscious mind. We put 2 and 2 together and we get 7. And we come up with, oh my gosh, I don't think anybody likes me here. Or, oh, that person's, I just don't think they believe I can do my job. Or, I can't stand up and do this meeting because everybody will be judging me and I'm bound to make a mistake and I can't do it. And suddenly we start to create a personality type that is based on things that simply are not true. They are based on filtering through this unconscious, unprocessed past trauma that's been stuck in the unconscious mind. And then we start waking up in the morning feeling exhausted. We go to work. We don't feel fully confident. We put on our face, we try to be something, but inside we're like a swan, literally paddling for our lives under the water. We don't feel that we can cope. We feel exhausted and our anxiety levels are just becoming more and more consistent throughout our days. Now, believe it or not, anxiety is not actually an emotion. Anxiety, when you start to experience it more consistently, is like the coat that the avatar wears. It's the outside. It is the introduction to you that there is something, some unprocessed stress that hasn't been healed yet. Anxiety was never ever the problem. It's never been the problem. And one of the first things I say to people that come to me and work with me is, I know that you feel like you're broken and that this anxiety is never going to go away, but I promise you anxiety is not the problem. Anxiety is the communication tool to get your attention, to say, please look at me. There is something here that really honestly needs healing. And until you heal it, I'm going to continue feeling like this and I just don't want to. Part of this avatar and being in this game of life and realizing that we are the driver of our life is conscious awareness, and that we aren't actually our thoughts, we aren't actually our emotions. Our emotions that we experience are only one thing. They are, I'm going to draw you another pretty picture now. So, this is a very bad drawing of the mind. An iceberg. It's the best analogy that for the mind that I've ever seen. So this iceberg, the top of it, the bit that you can see out of the water, which always looks huge to me on TV, I've never seen a real iceberg, always looks huge, it only represents 5%, and that is your conscious mind. So your conscious mind is, I've just seen Kirsty put a post on Facebook and she's going to be talking tonight about blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's really tweaked my intrigue. I'm going to go and watch it. That was your conscious mind. You made a decision. It's a decision-making part of your mind. It's great. You consciously decided you wanted to do something. But the biggest part that makes up every single human being is this part, and we call this the unconscious mind. This is the part that we are unaware of. It isn't in our conscious awareness unless we consciously decide to bring it into our conscious awareness. And the best way to describe this part of the mind is like the biggest tape recorder. It's like literally record your whole entire life. So that birth all the way through to today has been recorded. And it's been put into different boxes. So we've got first birthday, first lover, first day at school, first job. And then it's also got things like how you see the world and your habits and your belief system. So your mum and dad or your caregivers told you to believe in God, and then somebody else believe in Krishna, and then somebody else to believe in Buddha. And, you know, we've all got different belief systems depending on where we've come from. None good, none bad, just belief systems. But it's also where we keep all our unprocessed past stresses, past negative emotions from traumas that we simply have never completed the process on. We've never completed the process because in the moment of it happening, our natural survival kicked in and we muddled through. And we muddled through by creating this split in our consciousness to survive it. And how we survived it is we instantly took that negative emotion and we shoved it into a box down here. We put the lid on and went, phew, I can now get back on with life. And that's what we did. Brilliant. Okay, I get it. That's really important. We've all done that. But then we realised as we started to grow up that things weren't fully right in our lives. And we weren't aware that we were just coping with life, but suddenly things like we started to adopt odd behaviours and habits that we started to question, like, do you know what? I just want to come in one night from work and not have that need to grab a glass of wine. I sit there, I drink the wine, and next thing a bottle's gone. I'm mindlessly numbing myself. I just wish I could not eat 3 packets of crisps and then not even be aware that I've eaten any of them. I just wish I could stop binge eating when I feel sad. I want to stop scrolling, but it's like I'm addicted. I can't stop spending money that I haven't got. Oh my gosh, this game is so addictive. I can't get off my console. I can't get off it. 4 hours of my life gone like that. And we start to recognise that we've adopted and created behaviours that are starting to cause us distress. They're starting to affect our lives. They're stopping us from interacting with people. They're starting to make us feel less confident. We're starting to doubt ourselves more. Our family are starting to get upset and angry. Our children are missing out on us because we're not consciously there. We are starting to really kind of manifest, if you like, and create behaviours that we fully know don't serve us. But my God, I cannot stop doing them. Why can't I stop? I need to stop eating all this junk food. I need to stop drinking so much. I must stop binge drinking. I'm even starting to take recreational drugs to numb this out. In fact, I'm taking prescription drugs now because I just want to switch off this inner critic. Well, I can tell you now that what's actually happened is it's not that you are a bad person. It's not that you even have, and it's not that even the things that you're doing are the problem. The problem has always been that all this behaviour has been driven by this unprocessed past negative emotion or stress, whatever you want to call it, that has never been able to complete its cycle. And all it needs is to complete the cycle and it can be freed. And as soon as that happens, guess what changes? Your relationship to your bad habits. They start to go because the driver is now not there. Now, let me get this straight. The reason why it feels intense sometimes is because literally your emotions are trying to get your conscious awareness's attention to say, look, mate, can you look this way? There's some healing that needs to be done here. And until you get this healing done, I can't go. And so this is why it seems like it's consistently there, that day in, day out, that you're feeling this way, you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling like you can't stop these bad habits. It's purely because the driver hasn't been removed. Until we address the unconscious negative emotions, nothing will ever change. And I see people all the time through willpower trying to change their habits. And I say to them, you may do it for a short period of time. You may even feel better for a short period of time, but I promise you very quickly you will revert back to your old ways of being. Reason why I'm not being a jerk is because I know that this part of your mind is 30,000 times more powerful than this. And so it will always, with no exceptions, override your willpower. And this is why people get frustrated with losing weight, and this is why people get frustrated with trying to cut back on drinking, and this is why people get frustrated with the fact that their relationships are starting to fall apart, because they're speaking to their family and friends and they've got a really clear idea of what they want to do, and they try and do it, and wham bam, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days later, they've broken it again. Not because they're bad, but because they haven't addressed the root cause of the problem, which is always the unprocessed past negative emotion that's stuck in the unconscious mind. I have never worked with anybody ever in the last decade that it's been anything different, including myself. Until you start to process and work with the core problem, you're always going to lead yourself back into that same space. You're always going to be trying to do it with willpower, which will end up you getting massively frustrated and end up going, oh, sod it, I'm just going to have a drink tonight. Sod it, I'm just going to binge it because I just feel too down. I just need something to make me feel better. And the reason is not because you're bad and not because of anything else, because you just haven't approached the right thing. Look, this will make you feel better. We live on a planet where most people are emotionally constipated. This is not your fault. This is because our parents, our caregivers, did the best they could with the tools they've got. They didn't know this stuff. And their parents didn't know this stuff. And it's been passed down by generation and generation. And everybody's just tried to do the best they can. But ultimately, there has to be a break in this cycle, and the break is now. The break is now, that when you get the knowledge to be able to shift and change your behavior, your mental health, the way that you feel, so that you can feel your best version, that you take this opportunity and you do something different. And the only solution to healing, when it comes to physical healing, when it comes to you changing bad behaviours, getting over constant anxiety, feeling flat, the only thing you can do is address the unprocessed past emotions that have been stuck in your unconscious mind. And that is the answer. And every time I do that with clients, they get a result. And every time I do that with clients, they get a result and some, because they don't just get their energy back and they're able to make better choices, and they're clearer and they sleep better and their relationships get better and they thrive more and they're full of life. No, not just that. They then start to create intentions of who they want to become more of, because they've got the ability to create the space in their life to do that, because they're not surviving life anymore. Most people that I meet have been surviving life for way too long. And trust me, if I shove your head underwater, not that I would do that, and you felt like you were drowning, you wouldn't be worrying about what you're having for tea tomorrow night. You'd be worrying about where you're going to get your next bit of breath. When people live in survival mode, there's no time, no space, definitely mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to grow, because you're trying to survive the moment. You're trying to survive life. And so we have to make a change. So that's where I come in. Imagine this, okay? I get that what I'm telling you sounds very, very easy, because it's what I do day in, day out. I've been studying it for over a decade. I've been working with people for over a decade, and I've got a gazillion testimonials of stories of people probably very similar to you that's watching this, who have been in the same place and then very quickly, within 2-3 months, have considerably shifted their lives. But I'm going to say this. Everything I teach is not difficult, but it is different, and it's not a quick fix. It's not a tablet. It is a way of being. It is about starting to reassess your avatar and seeing yourself as the conductor of conscious awareness, and not as the thoughts and the emotions. Seeing thoughts and emotions as the communication tool to you, to your conscious awareness, to get your attention, to say there's something you need to heal. The second thing is that what's very exciting about this journey is, in my experience, when people start taking those steps, is not only do you get to learn about and let go of stuff that really doesn't serve you anymore and honestly is exhausting and just needs to be gone, but you also start to really get to know who you are. And we have been pretty much programmed on this planet to act like robots. And so, 9 till 5, pay bills, we've got There's always something going on, right? There's always some sort of like drama. Now I need your attention over here. We're going to, vaccinate the whole planet and tell them that they're going to die if they don't get away from the boogeyman. And the next thing it's like, oh, crisis over here now. It's done on purpose. It's to get your attention and divert it away from you. Whereas what's more important is your journey inwards, because when you align yourself back into your health, you get to choose and create and design things beyond your wildest dreams. And some people don't even want mental things. They just want simple things like love and connection and be able to be present with their children. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. But you get to choose to do that when you're out of survival mode. So what I did is this. Imagine this. When people come to work with me, what I do is I take them on an inward journey, because it's an inside job, this. It's not an outside job, clearly, because we know by trying to fix things on the outside, it gets us nowhere fast. When you shift that relationship back into the inward, in your inner world, and you start shifting and making changes from the inside out, things on the outside organically and naturally start to change. You don't need to worry about that. It just happens by default. So the first thing that I do, imagine this, I take people from where they are and do identify where they want to get to. Most people want the same things. They want to feel like they used to. They want to be able to spend more time with their family. They want to get excited about life. They want their energy back. They want to be able to walk into the office and feel good about themselves. We identify that. I then handhold metaphorically through a process to be able to give you the tools so you not only go through a program where you're going to get your energy back, but you start to learn about how to rise above this thinking mind, rise above the inner critic, how you are able to read your emotions. So emotions become gifts rather than being this enemy. Because for most people, negative emotions are, get away, I don't want to feel that. And unfortunately, that very action of resisting a negative emotion is the very thing that fuels it, that makes it 10 times worse. So I will show you how you can shift your relationship from changing a negative emotion into an absolute gift. I will then handhold you through a process so that what you become is your confidence comes back from the inside out. Your awareness will widen. Your awareness will widen to the point that you are able to, in every moment, make clear decisions that support you and what is in alignment with your truth. We often make decisions because we think that's what we should be doing. We think we should, we're this age now, so we think it should look like that. Rubbish to that. I will help you be able to align to your inner compass. Honestly, your inner compass knows the answers. I don't know what the answers are for you. I'm not you, but your inner compass does, and I will teach you and show you how to start reading that. When you start making decisions based on alignment with your truth, I can't tell you how exotic that flow of life becomes. It's almost tangible. It's like you've shifted into a different realm. It's like everyone else is still around you, but it's like vibrationally you're seeing the planet, you're seeing your life in a different level. And purely it's because you've taken the dark shades off, the light's been switched back on, and you're able to make these clear decisions. And the most exciting part of it is, over and beyond being able to go through processes where you're going to just learn heaps about, thoughts and emotions and thinking and overthinking, intrusive thoughts and all that jazz, is that you start to feel fabulous. And there's nothing more exciting, because it's not about what other people really, it's not important what other people think about you. It really isn't. But it's so bloody important what you feel and think about you. You would not realise the cascade of power that when you anchor yourself back into your fullness, what that can bring to your life. I cannot tell you. Bizarre things line up. Like, things that you just never, well, maybe you did dream of, but they just suddenly start presenting themselves. And I can't tell you the science behind this, other than the fact is that when you take control back, and I mean full control back, and you make that decision and you anchor back into your space, these things open up. And so I've made it easy. I've put this into a very simple step-by-step process, into a minimum of a 3-month membership. And this membership we've called the Mind Freed membership, because we are that avatar. We are changing our relationship to our thoughts, and we are starting to listen to our emotions. We are reading emotions, and we're rising above the intensity of our mind. And in that very move, we are starting to then take the next steps to healing. Once we start to heal and feel, we start to gain back that space and be able to anchor in. And that's when life gets really exotic and exciting. And I love this membership because it is a community, it's brand new, so it was early days, only a few people on the program, which makes it even better for those people joining now, because you get lots more love and attention. There is obviously bits and pieces for you to follow online, which are very easy to do, but there's a reach out, so you can reach out and you've got support, and that's what you need. I know on my journey, sometimes I just needed to ask somebody, am I doing the right thing? Is this right? And just in that very asking, a shift would happen quite often. So this program is only £97 a month, and there's a minimum commitment of 3 months. I'm going to put the link after this when I post it. If you've got any questions, DM me. We do other things, but this is a brilliant starting point. If you want to know anything more, then obviously you can personally DM me. But listen to this. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. And there's only one conscious awareness that can take control back of your life. And that is your conscious awareness. And sometimes all we need is a rule book. And I know that when I landed on this planet, I didn't get given a rule book either. I've had to work it out, but I have. And you don't have to spend those years working it out, because I've got the direct route to success for you. I will give you that in this membership. And ultimately, I always say to people, life is so precious and beautiful, but for many it's spent focused on lack and catastrophe and what's going wrong. And as a human being, we weren't meant to be in this avatar experiencing life that way. We were meant to be here experiencing the fullness, the grace, the beauty and the wonder. And if you want that, then just reach out.